This episode and every episode of the Beer Guys Radio Show is brought to you by Ironmonger Brewing. Visit Ironmonger at their tap room in Marietta, Georgia, or online at ironmongerbrewing.com.
Open up a tab, grab a seat, and pour a pint. It's time for the Beer Guys Radio Show.
You want free beer? Go to the brewery.
Dedicated to the art, science, and enjoyment of craft beer.
Yeah, what's wrong with the beer we got?
Now, here are your hosts, Tim Dennis and Brian Hewitt.
And welcome to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We are broadcasting from the Beer Guys Radio Studios in Marietta, Georgia. And this week we're talking with Lupulin Brewing. I'm Tim Dennis, and with me as always is my good friend and co-host, Brian Hewitt.
Hey, Tim. So joining us today, we have Matt Schiller, the co-founder of Lupulin Brewing and the head of brewing operations. We are going to talk about hops, and more hops, and we might branch out into IPAs, possibly, if we get past all the hop talk. Matt, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Is that, Brian, is your hops and IPAs, is that like your Pilsners and Lagers thing?
Pretty much, yeah.
Oh, terrible.
Yeah. There's some other stuff. They do other things, too. That was
They
kind of a
do.
joke.
We've got some here, man.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about them. They've got all kinds of good stuff going on.
If my joke didn't come through, that was in jest.
I got it.
They do have
You're
other
hilarious,
things. Yeah,
though,
I
Brian,
know.
so we
I know.
appreciate that, yeah.
I'm glad you recognize that.
So, Matt, you're doing the Lupulin World Tour, huh? So
Of sorts, yeah.
Or at least the North American Tour. So you're based out of Minnesota.
Yep,
correct?
we're right outside of Minneapolis.
Right outside of
Easiest
Minneapolis.
way to explain
Okay.
it. Yep.
And you've been coming down. You stopped in Nashville. Did you get a chance to check out the Nashville scene any while you were there?
Not this time. It was just a quick stop, but I've been there many times. I
Good
love
enough.
it. Yeah.
Cool town. Nice beer there too.
yeah,
Bearded Iris, Southern Grist, and
Yeah.
There's a little
Some of
blues
those,
bar
yeah.
right off of Broadway there that I really like. So
yeah. Are you a hot chicken guy?
at one point in my life, maybe not
What,
not
too
anymore.
much now? No
No,
more? Okay.
no.
Are you
no.
beyond that stage? I'm fortunately not beyond the hot chicken stage. I can get away with it.
You
Tim.
can still do
Yeah.
it, huh? Okay.
It's like the old saying goes: "I like it, but it doesn't like me."
I hear that. Yeah, I have a higher tolerance for heat on the north side of my person than I do on the southern side. So I gotta be careful there.
Same.
Yeah,
Yeah.
see, exactly.
Yeah.
So have you ran into anything interesting on your travel so far, heading down to Georgia?
I've mostly just been kind of a business trip, so
Okay.
nothing too crazy. But gonna have a little vacation in Florida here
That'll be nice.
after it's all said and done. So that will be nice. Yeah.
We did have more northern weather the last few days, but it warmed up again. Now, so you're coming through just in time, I think. So
Yeah. A funny story is it's actually been warmer in Minnesota than it has been. Today it was mid-70s there.
Oh, no kidding.
Crazy.
Yeah. So
We hit 70 tops today.
Right, I think
Yeah.
right at 70. But it's
Yeah.
weird because down here in the South we're always warmer. I've done Halloween in shorts and a t-shirt many times.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here looking, it's like mid 70s and that, and I see friends in Maine posting. It's like, oh, first snow of the season, and I'm like, wait, what? Snow? Man, it's 76 degrees. What are you talking
yeah,
about?
we got maybe like 6 or 8 inches a couple weeks ago.
You did get you have had some this year.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
crazy.
No fun.
Seasons
stuff.
are so weird. I don't think I like that at all. I'd prefer
You
to
don't
be
like seasons?
warm and sunny most
Go
of the
away,
time.
seasons.
Yeah.
I'm
Could
with
be a little cool and breezy, but warm and sunny, cool and breezy, and then back to warm
That's
and
it.
sunny.
Just
Yeah.
keep it there.
That's good.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. Brian, how's your week going, man?
It's been pretty good. Eventful. A lot of new breweries opening up. Man, where to even start? So there was the Atlantucky soft opening.
That's right.
We both stopped in and
We did.
drank
We
a
had
bunch
those
of their beers.
guys on
Yeah.
last week. If you
We
missed
did.
last week's show, please do check out our podcast. It's Diversity in Craft Beer with Atlantucky Brewing and Leaders of the Brew School. So good show.
And we had them on the show, and almost all of them were there. And I had, again, a variety of different beers, that their collaborations, and some of the Leaders of the Brew School beers. So that was a lot of fun. Smoked a few cigars on the patio. It was a good time. It was really enjoyable. Made it over to Second Self. I've been looking forward to this for a few weeks. I really like the Manic Pixie Dream beer. They had their number 2 that came out, so we had that. That's the 12% barley wine. Wonderful. Love that. Got to try the last remaining bit of the number 1, which was a almost 14% Russian Imperial Stout, and the untreated, unbarreled version of the number 2 that just was 9%. Also pretty nice. But you know what? After you have it in a barrel with the higher proof and all that richness, it's hard to go back to that.
We did it wrong. We did it wrong.
Yeah.
We started with the barrel age and then went back to the non-barrel age, so we didn't really do it justice doing it that way. That's for sure.
And you know what? I did drink through some of my cellar beers. beers, I got into an old Atlanta Brewing Company Grasshopper Hype Whale, which was delicious.
All right.
It was more delicious than
Mint
I expected
chocolate?
it to be. Yeah.
Okay.
And an Old Goose Island coffee stout from 2017, also pretty nice. You know what? I like the Grasshopper more. But
Good stuff,
enough about me, Tim. What did you do?
Well, you know what, Matt? I got a question for you now that we're talking since Lupulin Brewing, and we'll talk a little bit about the name, but I'm guessing you're a hophead. Are you a cellar beer guy? Do you keep a beer cellar? Or you keep cold drink fresh kind of guy?
No, I keep a cellar for
Okay.
sure. It's not as extravagant as it probably once was, just having the brewery now and access to beer all the time. But I do love strong Belgians, barley wines, stouts, kind of the more traditional cellar beers. I really enjoy.
Well, that's when the pandemic hit. There's so many beers that I've got in my cellar, and I think, Brian, same with you, that it's like, I'm going to save this for an occasion, for something special, this and that. And then I'm like, well, the world's ending anyhow, so let's #drink your cellar.
That's right.
So just go for it. Get some of these beers that you've been keeping up for a day that'll probably never come. So, just Tuesday. Let's celebrate Tuesday. We made it another day.
Some of them are disappointing. Like, why did I hang on to it? Others, like that Grasshopper, I'm like, this was fantastic. I don't know how it held up so well. So
just hit it. Yeah. But, Brian, to answer your question, I'm good, man. The only thing, like you said, we went to Atlantucky. We checked out Elsewhere Brewing. Really good, nice beer. Argentinian influence based on the owner's travels. And they did empanadas. I'm a big fan of holdable pies like that.
Yes.
They had a smoked trout empanada, Brian, which I thought was crazy, but was my favorite one. Just delicious, really good. Dark Czech lager. That was really nice there. And also I checked out Horned Owl Brewing. I think you didn't make it out to that one. But
I did
Horned
not,
Owl Brewing up in Kennesaw, Georgia. So, Brian, that was 3 new breweries for us this week, which I don't think we've done in a year.
It's like a record.
So we checked them all out. But, yeah, it was a good time, man. Had a good time with it.
it sounds like it's time for the beers of the week, Tim.
Now it's time for our Beers of the Week. Brought to you by The Nest, craft beer and barbecue in downtown Kennesaw, Georgia. TheNestKennesaw.com.
Well, Brian, as always, we've got just a phenomenal list of stuff to try, and I want to say thank you to The Nest for sponsoring this segment. They've got a great event coming up on the 19th of November with Scofflaw Brewing, Pogs and Dogs, Brian. And for those that don't know, Pog, Brian, what is Pog?
Isn't the little discs that the kids
It
used
is,
to play
but
with?
not in this case.
Oh, no, it's not that?
We're talking passion fruit, orange, guava.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. So Pogs and Dogs, it's a benefit for Mostly Mutt's Animal Rescue. They're going to have plenty of Scofflaw beers and seltzers, as well as their Flippin' Bird Gin there. So check that out. If you're in the area, make sure to check it out. Thank you to The Nest. Brian, our beers this week, we actually started off with a non-beer. We had Monk's Mead. They were kind enough to send us some of their Dragon's Nectar. It's a Dragon Con mead, a collaboration they did with there. And unfortunately, they kind of got hosed this year because Dragon Con went virtual.
Oh,
so
yeah.
they couldn't do it with all the pandemic and stuff. But it was a session mead with passion fruit, hibiscus, and dragon fruit. Really tasty stuff, man. Light, sparkling mead, so that was really good. And you probably could have guessed this, but we're going to get knee-deep into some Lupulin beers. And we are currently drinking Hui IPA. We have their CPB chocolate peanut butter. Is that a porter or stout base on that one?
Porter. Yeah,
Okay.
but, it's horse
The gray,
piece,
the thin gray line there
Yeah,
between the
yeah.
two. And then we've got the Imperial version of that. We also have one called Fashion Mullet, which I think is just absolutely beautiful. And we have 8 count there. So all kinds of good stuff to get into from Lupulin. We're going to do our best to drink every one of them. And Brian, we got a little bit of time here. So what's happening in the news?
What's in the news? The beer guys have the scoop.
Extra, extra, read all about it.
Time for headlines.
So one of the biggest things going on right now is Sweetwater Brewing is being acquired by global cannabis company Afria Inc., which I've never heard of them before now, but the acquisition is a $300 million deal, $250 million in cash, $50 million in Afria stock. And the reason behind it is there's a common interest and alignment of their brands. So there's an opportunity to expand Sweetwater into Canada, which they're not there. But there's also the strategic acquisition giving Afria access to the U.S. market for if and when the U.S. legalizes marijuana, which we all know is probably going to happen sometime soon. The deal is expected to close by the end of the year.
Not shocker to hear that they're selling, though, right? So, yeah, interesting stuff.
I didn't realize Sweetwater was up for sale, but I mean, after I think about it and realize it's not April 1st, I'm like, yeah, okay, I guess it
bought
makes
into it
sense.
then.
It's
Yeah.
on point. So one of the most amusing news of the week is Brewdog is going all Willy Wonka with a 24-karat gold Punk IPA can. They'll be hiding these golden cans in 12 packs of Punk IPA throughout November, and the announcement came from co-founder James Watt on Twitter with the promise of more details to follow. So if scoring a golden can is not good enough, it also entitles you to a special brewery tour. And that's all we know at
crazy,
this
man.
point in time.
Maybe they're going to give you the brewery. Who
Could
knows,
be.
man? Yeah. You're listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We do need to take a break, but we'll be back very soon with more from Lupulin Brewing.
Have you ever thought about owning your own brewery but don't know what it takes to get one built? We're Storytime Construction, and we build breweries. We're Georgia's most experienced and hands-on contractors when it comes to building new breweries and tap rooms, or expanding existing breweries. We offer full build-outs, remodeling, and additions, as well as consulting and construction management. Give us a call at 770-733-4343. Storytime Construction. We build breweries.
Craft beer forged with a reverence for tradition and new styles that start a revolution. Ironmonger Brewing. The brewers at Ironmonger Brewing pride themselves at being masters of barrel-aged, hoppy, and sour beers. They invite you to their tap room in Marietta, Georgia to taste and see. Also visit their barrel room for an intimate drinking experience with great live entertainment. Keep up to date on all things Ironmonger by liking them on Facebook. Ironmonger Brewing, establishing a new standard in craft beer.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
I didn't enjoy it at all.
Now, back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. Remember, all episodes are available on demand, so if you missed the broadcast, get the podcast. Beer Guys Radio is available on all popular and unpopular podcasting apps. Now let's get back to Lupulin Brewing.
Matt, we just opened up your 8 count here, which kind of a cool story behind it. Can you tell us how this beer came to be?
Yeah, actually, a local boxer, a world-class local boxer. Yeah, a fan of the brewery, kind of a beer geek, probably a self-admitted beer geek, and been coming in the brewery for several years now, kind of got to know us. We hooked up and started sponsoring him in a small part. I mean, he's gracious enough to work with us at the scale that we're at, being the boxer that he is, and so we'd been doing that for a couple years now, and he's getting towards the end of his career. I don't think he's anywhere near done yet, but definitely towards the sunset, and just kind of looking ahead, and kind of wanted to have his signature beer. So that's really what this is. He's a hophead and really loves the IPAs that we put out. So that's kind of how this came about, and we worked on a flavor profile, and that's what we've got here.
So it's a 10 count to be knocked out. 8 count means he got up just before the end.
Well,
is that what that is?
There's
a
standing, I'm not super up with all the deep rules, but there's a standing 8 count. I'm not sure exactly how that works or what the methodology is, but we did definitely leave room for another beer in the future, possibly
9 count, 10 count.
At
At least 3 in the series, right?
9.1 count.
if and when black IPAs come back again, he's a huge black IPA fan.
Okay.
So, look for at some point maybe 10 count being a black IPA and on a limited release or something.
There's a few directions you can go.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I keep hearing whispers of black IPAs coming back, and I saw, now that we're on the unusual IPA train here,
Did we mention the boxer's name?
No, I don't think we
Caleb
did.
Truax.
Caleb Truax,
is the boxer.
Yeah.
So
Follow what he's up to.
check him out. See what he's drinking.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure he's on Untapped if he's a beer geek. He has to
Oh,
be, right?
yeah. He's all over social media. Yeah,
There you go.
Yeah.
But you mentioned, so black IPAs, I keep hearing whispers of them coming back. I saw earlier this year, and this is a variety of IPA that I miss a great deal, white IPA. I saw that you made one earlier this year. Is that coming back? Or was that just kind of a crazy one-off thing?
Yeah, more of a one-off. We let all of our team make beers on occasion on our innovation, our original 10-barrel brew house. So that's what that was. I don't know. I mean, it's so hard to tell right now.
Right.
I mean, hazies are pretty much everything, but who knows?
Well, that was kind of my thinking, is that the hazy IPA, the Northeast IPA, was kind of the, for lack of a better term, the evolution of the white IPA, kind of the next frontier.
Yeah, they kind of
IPA
moved away
there.
from the more, it's like the white IPA kind of had like the wit action, the little bit of the Belgian character, kind of moved away from
It's always
that
changing
into
up there. Yeah.
the cloudiness, the haze, the body, but a little bit less of the esters and maybe the coriander or whatever. So
Yeah.
I think the real key is is doing it well. I think if a lot of breweries did it really well and balanced that ester profile correctly with the hops and the bitterness, I think it'd be more popular. But it's really easy to go wrong with that type of yeast. It can throw different phenols and stuff that are going to, kind of conflict with the hop profile and the smoothness that you want in a beer like that. So that's probably what it's fighting against a little bit. I don't think it's a very easy style to make at all, but it definitely can be done well. It's just not that easy.
To get the balance where you want
Oh,
it,
yeah.
it's easy to
fermentation,
overdo
yeast
it
strain,
one direction or the other, right?
Absolutely. There are two flavors that can really, really clash. Same with black IPA to some extent, that roast and hops. Certain hop varieties are key in that one. Simcoe tends to be an easy one. Simcoe works really good with dark roasty malt, so, trying to go too fruity in a beer like that, it just clashes too hard. So, you have a limited range as to what you can do.
Brian's
with a beer
a hater,
like that.
Matt.
No, no.
He's a black IPA hater.
I'm looking to celebrate. I'm not trying to hate, but unfortunately,
Don't
most
hate,
black
celebrate.
IPAs do not deliver what they need to deliver. I've had a few where I'm like, this is a well-made beer. I like this. I think there's some interesting balance there that I don't fully understand, but some people get. And I think Simcoe is involved in it.
Yeah, if you homebrew it, try one with all Simcoe. And go a little bit light on the roast. Use like a dehusked or something like that. That's not going to put that big punch of roast. Don't load it up with a bunch of caramel malt and stuff like that. Keep it as simple as possible. Get some dark color in there with some dehusked roasted malt, and then go straight hop Simcoe and see how that works for you. The Simcoe really works with dark malt really well.
It's funny, naming style names sometimes are enough to just change the way people perceive a beer. We've talked about this brewery 2 weeks in a row now, and I can't remember the brewery that we talked to, Chilliwassee Brewing Company.
Oh yeah,
and they do a black IPA, but he calls it a Cascadian Dark Ale. He goes that direction with it, and he said that that was his number one beer, and he said because the locals like that attachment to the American beer style, the Cascadian Dark Ale. So that does well for him. Just like, and we talked about this before too, when Founders put out, was it Dissenter? The IPL?
Yeah, the IPL.
It sat on shelves because no one was ready for an India Pale Lager. And I still think if you put out the exact same beer and you called one a dry hop lager and you called one an IPL, that dry hop lager is going to sell. That IPL is going to get dusty and go bad on you.
They should bring Dissenter back. They don't have to do a thing other than change the name.
Just
or
change
maybe
it
the
to-
descriptor.
yeah.
It was a wonderful beer. I bought the heck out of it.
Do you guys play around with style names a lot? Do you always go for a style, or do you brew and then say, all right, guys, this kind of falls in this wheelhouse?
Yeah, we rarely go for a style. Other than, some of our German stuff, we've done okay with some German lagers at GABF and won some awards there with that. But
A little medal for a Doppelbock this year, right?
Doppelbock,
Yeah, that's right.
yeah. Bronze this year. We took gold in 17 for our Dortmunder. But when it comes to IPAs and kind of a lot of the darker beers that are going and popular these days, there really isn't a great style category to fit them in. I mean, I brought you guys 4 of our core IPAs here today, and they're all wildly different, but they're all IPAs. Well, one's a double IPA technically, but you know what I mean? There's such a range there. It's so hard to really nail down that style. I think everybody's struggling with nailing it down, and by style, I mean, how are we going to judge it?
Sure, absolutely.
We just kind of make what we want to make. We go after a flavor profile, and then if it lands on a style, it lands on a style. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Yeah, and as far as people coming in and drinking the beer, that's not an issue. But then you start doing stuff like GABF, that makes it a little harder, huh?
Oh, it really makes it harder.
Yeah. Easier to get a Doppelbock into the Doppelbock than it is an IPA. Is this IPA? Is it that one? What is it, hazy and juicy? Isn't that the category, what they call it now?
Yeah, and for us, it's even doubly hard because, we don't even really make our IPAs to that style either. You know, they don't fit necessarily the juicy hazy as it's understood today. Our beers have some softness to them. Some have a little bit more bitterness to them. We like to make them drinkable. So to be drinkable, you need a little bit of bitterness, which then kind of goes a little bit outside of that juicy hazy, but it's not bitter enough to be standard IPA or clear enough to be standard IPA. So, that's a tough one. I don't know if we'll ever win an award for an IPA. At least
fit in that mold there,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
That is crazy. A Lupulin Brewing is winning awards for their lagers, but not for their IPAs.
Yeah.
And that's the craziest thing to me. But
we actually take a lot of pride in that, actually, because as you guys know, lagers are really difficult to brew well.
Sure.
So for us, if we can make it, I feel Dortmunder is probably the most balanced beer style on earth. So, if we can do that well and win a gold medal, I feel like we could do anything then at that point. It feels good.
There's so much more variety to lagers than most people know. It's something we've talked about a few
totally.
times.
Oh, for sure.
Like your Doppelbox and all that. Yeah, absolutely. You're listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We need to take another break, but we'll be back very soon with more from Lupulin Brewing. You know we love good beer, and Athletic Brewing makes non-alcoholic beer that stands shoulder to shoulder with their boozy brethren. With a fraction of the calories and certified organic, it's a great beer to enjoy anytime.
Athletic's got new brews like Cerveza Atletica just in time for summer. Check out the full selection at athleticbrewing.com. Use code BG25 for 25% off your first order, and U.S. customers get free nationwide shipping. Athletic Brewing, brew without compromise.
It's Brian and Tim, the Beer Guys. If you're like us, no lunch or dinner is complete without a pint or two of craft beer.
Which is why Truck and Tap in downtown Woodstock, Alpharetta, and Duluth are always on our list. Tim, why do they call it Truck and Tap?
Well, the tap part is easy, Brian. They've got 18 of them.
As for the truck part, that's where it gets interesting. Truck and Tap features your favorite Atlanta area food trucks, so you're getting a different menu every day.
Truck and Tap in downtown Woodstock, Alpharetta, and Duluth.
Truckandtap.com. Let them know that the Beer Guys sent you.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
To be the man, you gotta beat the man. Woo!
Now, back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
Hey, welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. I want to give a quick shout out to one of our great radio affiliates, WRMN 1410 AM in Elgin, Illinois. Catch Beer Guys Radio on WRMN every Saturday at 12 noon local time. Let's get back to Lupulin Brewing.
Matt, if you're okay with it, man, we want to talk about hops. I'm thinking you probably like hops, right?
Yeah, I
so
do.
Lupulin Brewing, Lupulin, what is lupulin?
Yeah, so lupulin is the glands inside the hop cone that contain like the essential oils, basically where the bitterness, the flavor, the aroma that you get in the beer, that's where it comes from. So actually, like our logo, if you see our original logo, and most of them now on our cans are just kind of open, but our original logo with the yellow inside it is exactly that. It's a hop cone cut in half, basically, the art version of that.
So the terpenes themselves come from the lupulin inside those glands, right?
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
I mean, you do get something, obviously, from some of the leaf material. It's not devoid of
get your
flavors.
From that or what have you, right?
Some of that, but definitely what we're really going after is the lupulin when we're making IPA.
One of the most enjoyable things I toured Sierra Nevada in Mills River, North Carolina, toured there, and we went into the hop room, or they've got, it's not the hop room, it's a tourist hop room, but they've got bins with several different kind of hops in there, and I think they had one called, was it called Frank Zappa, maybe? Do you know if that's a hop strain? Does that sound right?
Might be.
I've never heard of that, but I'm intrigued by it.
So
they're big enough, they might have their own.
They could have their own, right?
Yeah.
But you get to dig in and get a big old double fistful of these and breathe them in that. And just when you smelled them, it was obvious where the name came from. They're very, very dank hops.
Dankety dank.
But the sticky resinous and all that on there. And it's just, as a beer nerd, it's a fun thing to do, to go in there and bury your face in a big bin full of hops there. So it's good stuff.
I do enjoy that. I've done some brewery tours where I've done just that. I think anybody who ever does a brewery tour, if they have the bins open, I know back in the days in Portland, Oregon, that was a big thing. They always would take you to the hop room. They'd always have you dig your hands in. You get
up
rub
in
it
there,
rub
right?
it all
Rub it
around
up.
your hands.
Yep.
Man, that is so nice.
Just don't get it in your eyes.
What's that?
Just don't get it in your eyes.
You know what? I never tried that. I don't think I ever played with my eyes afterwards, but I guess I could see that.
Oh,
so,
yeah. You won't do that one again.
Well, that's the kind of things it's like you don't mean to do it. They're the things you do, and then you realize that you've done it because of the consequences. Like when you eat peppers,
it's
eat
like
peppers or something. And
I
then
rub my hands
hot
in hops and Tabasco, and then rub my eyes. I don't understand why they're burning.
Open
so
your
much.
eyes up and stick your fingers in there.
Hold on, let me change my contacts.
There you go. That's a good idea. That's a good idea. So, do you guys use lupulin powder in your brews? Are you all whole cone, or how do you rock it lupulin?
Yeah, we actually we use quite a bit of that. We like to call it hop hash,
right?
Just for fun. We were actually one of the first breweries to get on that train when it first came out. Obviously, when they released it or announced it, I immediately reached out to our rep and we got it. We actually made a beer called Straight Hash Homie. We make that every year in April around 420, and we have a party and everything at the brewery. So that one's kind of fun. That's all hop hash. I always get yelled at by my rep. Hop hash is floor sweepings. This is a good quality.
Yeah.
I get it, but it's more fun to say hop
Well, that's
hash.
what I was going to say. Hop hash was originally, it was all the stuff sticking to the equipment as they were processing hops, right? And they realized, man, this is all the good stuff here. Let's scrape this up. Let's sweep the floor and put it in a beer, right?
They came up with a better way of cleaning it up and packaging it.
Sure.
So shout out to Yakima Chief Hops.
Right.
I understand. It's a quality product. I still want to call it hop hash.
So I never remember what's the difference between the lupulin powder and like the cryo stuff.
It's
the
same
same
thing. Yeah, cryo.
It's just a different name for it.
Yeah, they call it cryo. It's whatever their proprietary process is for it. But that's essentially what I call hop hash. Yeah.
So in the ranking of your favorite form of hops to use, how do they line up? You've got the cryo or the powder up on top, and maybe either the pellets or the wet hops after.
They all have their own merits, honestly. Yeah. The cryo, does things to the beer that are different than traditional T90 pellets, as we call them. Now, the cryo, they're doing that powder in a pellet form also now. It's just easier for us to handle it and process it. But definitely your traditional pellet, it's got some of the green matter, the leaf material from the whole cone hops. We use exclusively pellets or cryo. We just don't have the equipment to easily handle whole cone hops. We like whole cone hops. It's just a whole lot more equipment.
It's bulky,
to do.
Right? Bulky and messy.
Well, it soaks up a lot of liquid. It's hard to. You have to have special
does.
ways to deal with it inside the brewery. So if you're committed to whole cone hops, you have to have the equipment to do it, which isn't all that common nowadays.
There's better ways to do it, right?
I don't even know if it's better or not. It's just different.
Sure.
It's easier for us to handle pellet hops and cryo hops or hop hash. It just kind of breaks up, and when you're given all they have to give, they go down the drain easy, and it's just easy for us to handle.
It does make sense.
Sure, absolutely. Now, we have a lot of fun seeing the experimental hops coming out and seeing breweries play around with these, do different IPAs with some of the experimentals and that. Are there any new hops coming through the pipeline, or maybe recently released that you're having fun with right now?
Well, Sabro, not super new anymore, but we're drinking that here with the 8 count. I really like that hop. It's a little bit of a polarizing hop. It's got kind of a woody coconut kind of tropical fruit thing to it that some people are more sensitive to than others. That one's fun. Lotus is another one that's come out. There was a rebrand. It used to be called Denali. Now it's called Sultana. That one I'm a huge fan of. Big pineapple character in that.
That's an experimental one. I forget all the descriptors, and I think it
all
only
the
has a number.
HBCs there, right?
Yeah, it has. It's like rose petals as part of it, but other things too. Have you played around with that? And
which one is that?
Oh boy, I don't remember. I really wish I'd written down the number.
We probably have. I just couldn't place
I think
it.
It's woody rose petals and has some other interesting character to it. Anyway, it's very recent.
We've been playing around. I forget the exact number. It's an HBC, like you said.
It might be the same one.
There's one. It's like a sister of Sabro, and it actually has like a oaky bourbon barrel character to it.
Oh.
We use that in the Whirlpool in our Lateralis Imperial Stout, and if you have the straight version, now most times when we put it out, we doctor it up with chocolate and all the fun stuff, but occasionally we do put that out as a straight version, and you can really pick that up. I had a lot of fun pouring that at GABF last year, the straight version, and people could not believe it wasn't barrel aged, and it wasn't at all.
Is it HBC 472? Does that sound
right?
That sounds right.
Yeah, sounds right.
I had a local version of that, and it came across extremely woody. Like wood aged, but not like bourbon barrel aged. Like
Wildleaf did a version of it. Wildleaf Brewing, and I think didn't Hopsticks
that was
do one?
Hopsticks had the very woody version of it. So in terms of like blending hops together, I'm always intrigued by this. We talked about Simcoe being great for like black IPAs, but what is your favorite combination of hops together in an IPA or a pale ale?
The perfect IPA.
Yes.
Oh boy, that's really tough because it changes.
Sophie's Choice, right?
Yeah, it changes a lot. It's really right now. It's really hard to go wrong with Citra Mosaic as a good base. It does well just those two on its own. Back in the day, it was Cascade Centennial, and it was Simcoe Amarillo. Simcoe Amarillo Columbus. Now
the Galaxy era.
Yeah,
those,
Galaxy never really stood that well on its own as much, but Citra Mosaic is still, that's probably the one going right now. I got a feeling Sabro Sultana is gonna make its way in that mix.
I'd like to see the timeline of that, because it does sound like there are flavors of the moment in hop combinations,
absolutely.
and you could really track that over a period of time.
About 1985 to 2000, Cascade Centennial, 2000 to 2010, Simcoe Amarillo, or maybe that lasted until 2012, and then Citra Mosaic, basically.
Yeah,
from then,
I can remember Simcoe, man. That's all you heard. Simcoe. That was the one. Everybody wanted that in their beer. And how many IBUs can you get? That was the goal too, not that long ago. So
yeah.
What is your highest IBU beer? That's a good question.
I couldn't even tell you. Probably strictly illegal. It's our triple IPA.
Okay.
There you go. Bring out the big guns.
Yeah.
Well, you're listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We're going to take another break here, and we'll be back very soon with more from Lupulin Brewing.
If you love beer, barbecue, and football, then the Nest in Kennesaw, Georgia is the place to get your fix. Featuring 48 taps, including unique and rare craft beers, wine, and more. Plus some of the best barbecue around. The spacious patio is a great place to catch the games this fall, where you can cheer on your team while you enjoy some wings. And don't forget about the delicious pork and chicken, and my personal favorite, the nachos. Remember, for the best in craft beer and barbecue, make your home at the Nest in Kennesaw, Georgia.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
I believe you have my stapler.
Now, back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. If you enjoy the show, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/beerguys. Patrons get cool perks like Beer Guys swag and commercial-free episodes. Now let's get back to Lupulin Brewing.
Matt, we're gonna shift here. We're gonna let the sun set on the lighter beers. It's gonna get a little dark in here now.
Ooh.
Because we've just cracked into your CPB. Some chocolate peanut butter, and this is a porter, as we mentioned a little bit earlier. So with a name like Lupulin Brewing, I bet people automatically assume, and I mentioned to you that when I saw your Oktoberfest beer on the shelf, I'm like, oh, because Lupulin Brewing, I figured, it's all about the hoppy beers, but we have drank the CPB. We're just getting into the Imperial CPB. You guys enjoy your dark beers as well, correct?
We enjoy all beers.
Yeah.
If you're not near the brewery, outside of Minneapolis, you probably don't see a lot of it because not a lot of it gets out to the market. But if you come to one of our tap rooms, we've got the one outside of Minneapolis and then one in Sioux Falls also. We just installed a bunch more taps in our main tap room. We'll have over 30 beers on tap at any given time. We've actually got two GABF medals in German lagers, Dortmunder and Doppelbock. We've got a full sour program. We've got a clean barrel program, stouts, stuff like that, barley wines.
Have you considered changing your name to not just Lupulin Brewing?
No.
Okay.
Maltulin? Does that work? Lupulin Brewing?
We did make a beer one time called Definitely Not Hooey.
That
was kind of fun. One of our malt suppliers misbagged a malt, and I was mashing that beer in, and I'm looking at the color of the wort, and it's like, that's red.
You're like,
that's
definitely not right.
That's definitely not hooey.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So we went with it.
He got lemons. Boom, lemonade.
Honestly, a red ale, red IPA in that vein, I really like those.
I do.
I mean, honestly, that's more than lemonade. That's like a hard lemonade. You know, so you got lemons and made hard lemonade out of it. So that's a good thing.
I thought the beer came out really well. I knew I made a lot of red IPAs home brewing, so I knew exactly what to do with the wort as soon as I saw it and tasted it, and I changed the hops up. But the name just, definitely not hooey. When hooey's our flagship, it just didn't go over.
Couldn't have pulled that off, right? You're like, no, this isn't. And Beer Geeks, man, if it's not exactly the same as the last batch, they're going to let you know.
Yeah,
it'll be talked about online. I heard a story. One of the big popular Northeast IPA brewers, Trillium or Treehouse, are one of those. But when they started, they had someone created a Facebook fan community for them, and they were active in it. And then it started. Do you guys think this batch is different than that batch? And it just kind of the downward spiral to the point. One of the owners of the brewery was involved in the group, and he's like, "Guys, this is just too much negativity. I got to step out of this, So it's like you're working with organic products, and you do.
Yeah.
And again, we've said this many times, but props to Budweiser for being able to be consistent as they can across what they do.
They don't use real ingredients, do they?
They don't.
Part of the bit?
It's like a Keurig. They just got these huge pellets that they just put in there.
They're at a point where it's probably very similar to that. I'm sure there's a lot of automation going on there.
I don't think they actually use any real hops. I think it's all extract. I'm sure
liquids and all that.
But you
real
do
beechwood though.
You do have a
real beechwood.
Yeah.
Right off the beach, right?
That's it. Right off the beach. They're right off the beach.
While we're talking about the darker beers, I was intrigued by, for multiple reasons, Coffee Shop Assault Vehicle. Part of the reason I was intrigued by it involves coffee. And coffee, the green beans were actually aged in bourbon barrels, which is something I've tried from coffee, but I've never had it from beer. And that's really intriguing to me. How did you even come up with that idea?
I don't even remember exactly, but
too many beers.
So the name, came off of I like to just peruse Urban Dictionary on occasion. Coming up with names is really hard. There's a lot of breweries, and there's a lot of really creative breweries that have a lot of really creative names. So just to get that edge, you gotta dig real deep into the interwebs to get that edge. But I stumbled on this name for a Vespa scooter as a coffee shop assault vehicle. In hipster neighborhoods with the hipster coffee shops, riding your scooter, all these scooters parked out in front of these coffee shops. So that's where the name comes from, and the label. The label is great. We have a unbelievable in-house artist, Marcus Paulson. He actually has won that label. Actually won a Crushy.
Craft beer marketing awards, right? Is the Crushy?
And it's actually there was some pretty serious judges. Ralph Steadman, if you know, he was one of the main final judges that made the call. He's a world-renowned judge or artist. I mean, sorry, clearly he's a good
judge,
good,
right?
probably a pretty good
judge of artistic merits.
Is
what he was. Yes.
Yeah, and he's Marcus, our artist, actually won the best beer art in Minnesota in our local market, and that award's actually voted on by our peers in the industry. So we take a lot of pride in that. He does some ridiculous. Every can is a masterpiece. It's unbelievable.
And that's becoming more and more important when you're sending stuff out to market, because these shelves are crowded now, Matt. You may not have noticed that.
Yeah.
But you gotta.
No, I got a giant beer cooler at the brewery. I don't get out much.
Good, man, right?
He's like, it's all our beer. It's not that crowded at all.
No,
no.
But we're looking at these here. We've got, and something I don't know if I've ever seen a black beer can before. I mean, the can itself is black.
Who did the Sublime collaboration?
Was that Lagunitas?
I don't know if it was Lagunitas
or was that in a black can?
It was in a black can. It was
anyhow,
Sublime
looks
thing.
really cool. Got black. The 8 count is black and gold here. Very cool looking stuff. The Imperial version of CPB is really good there.
It is.
Yeah, that cool. Black can, black lid really is very striking. The coffee shop assault vehicle likely hitting that. Back to the coffee, we actually use a local coffee roaster, Paradise Roasters out of Minneapolis. local to us up there, and we source the green coffee beans from them, and we get a fresh bourbon barrel, and we dump the bag into there, and you only got to leave them in there a week or two, and those green coffee beans really absorb that bourbon and oak kind of flavor and aroma, and then we empty them. It's really fun getting them out of the barrel. We get it out of the barrel, and we take it over to them, and they roast it for us. Pretty dark roast on that, and then we have a special infusion vessel that we use to infuse different things, whether it's cacao nibs or coffee or what have you. So we make the beer, we ferment it out, and then we cycle the beer through this vessel that contains it, and that's how we add the coffee flavor to it. But it really gets a cool bourbon barrel character without ever having sat in a bourbon barrel. Yeah. It
sounds
cool.
like you're using like an industrial strength Randall, basically.
Yeah, it's
almost hop rocket.
It's almost
Randall.
Exactly what it is. Yeah, it's a big pressure vessel with a screen in it, essentially. Yeah, we use it for a lot of different things.
It's a giant French press, honestly.
That's it.
Yeah, kind of.
Plunge it down.
We have a lot of fun, and we always have more coffee beans left than we put in the beer, because we'll put a whole bag or two in this barrel. So it's nice. They bag some up, and we sell it in our tap room. They sell some on their website. So, yeah, look for that maybe late December, early January. If you don't get the beer, you can order the coffee from them.
Sounds good to me.
It's really
Absolutely.
Cool. It's amazing in the morning drinking coffee that tastes like there's
bourbon
in
Some
it.
whiskey there.
Oh, totally. It's really actually quite strong.
I think it was,
I'm sold.
I think it was one of your buddy's coffee companies that he had a
Lane
barrel-aged
Coffee.
version.
Yeah.
And I got it. And I'll admit, at first I'm like, man, do I want whiskey in my morning coffee and that? Not that I'm opposed to coffee and whiskey, but it's just sublime, man.
Yeah.
It's just really nice. You get that because it's not overpowering. You get the little barrely, the little bourbony note. And I'm like, actually, this is really, really good in a cup of coffee. So
He also experimented with fermenting beans, and it was interesting. You could get some of the notes of it. I'm still waiting to see somebody who has successfully fermented coffee beans and then turn that into a cup of coffee. I'm willing to try, but please try it and see if you can come up with something, because I want to try it. I want to drink it. And I'm not going to do it myself. So
make it happen, right?
Yes,
absolutely. Well, Matt, we've just got literally like a minute left here. So is there anything else people need to know about Lupulin Brewing, your beers, your sour program? You mentioned you've got a pretty good sour program too.
Yeah, so we do some very traditional wood-aged sours. We branded it a little differently, just Lupulin being hops. So we call that line Scribbled Lines.
Okay.
So
like a brand in its own?
Yeah, it's a brand.
Okay. Sure.
It's still us, but it's kind of an offshoot. We like to say we tell a story with our beer, and you couldn't really tell the story of that kind of beer with a name like Lupulin on the label. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's a lot of fun. We're growing that. You should see more of that out on the market, and in the next year or so. Most of it's in-house, just based on quantity. But we put in some fooders recently, so quantity should go up quite a bit here.
Well, if people want to find out what is going on, the latest news from Lupulin Brewing, what is the best way to do that?
Facebook, Instagram, our website. We have a new website launching in a few weeks here. But yeah, Facebook, Instagram, the usual channels.
Awesome.
Are the best way.
Well, Matt, thank you so much for joining us. We really enjoyed it.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
You bet. Absolutely. Well, that about wraps it up for this episode of the Beer Guys Radio Show. Join us next week as we talk with WeldWorks Brewing. We are Beer Guys Radio on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great week, and don't forget to drink local. Cheers.